It was chaos, yeah, and I just like, oh my God, like here, like in a quiet neighborhood.
No place is off limits, I guess.
I was like, is that a reality going on, or is that I am watching a film?
We can now tell you who is accused in the daylight shooting in the beaches that sent 2 men to hospital and brought chaos to the quiet neighborhood. 2 men were caught shortly after the shooting. They appeared in court this afternoon. Kelda Ewan joins us live now from the neighborhood. So, Kelda, who are they?
Well, Dwight, 21-year-old Ajmain Rahman and 20-year-old Rodriguez Sendia, they are now both facing 1 count of attempted murder as well as 1 count of unlawful possession of a firearm. Now, Sendia also is charged with breach of probation. People I spoke to in this Beaches neighborhood earlier today, they say they're glad the suspects were caught, but they also say that a shooting in this community means that this kind of thing really can happen anywhere.
The guy was just like telling us like his friend got shot and he also get shot.
Mayank Gambier was working inside the wine rack when 2 men staggered in. Police say they had been shot at Woodbine and Kingston Road while sitting in a car. They drove toward the Queen Street shop.
I was like, is that a reality going on, or is that I am watching a film, or what is going on? Like, I haven't seen that stuff in real life.
Those in the neighborhood say what happened is sad and scary, but also the new normal.
It is on my mind, but it kind of happens all the time.
I don't think people have to feel unsafe. Bad things can happen anywhere. It's a sign of the times.
Just the way things have been going the last probably year, nothing really surprises me anymore in terms of gun violence in the city.
3 guns were found near the scene. Initially, police believed there were more than 2 suspects, but after speaking to witnesses, Toronto Police spokesperson Katrina Aragante confirmed today.
We have reason to believe that the 2 males that we do have in custody are the same 2 males that believe to have the firearm and is related to the actual shooting.
Gloria Fleming works in a shop on Queen near Woodbine. Despite the shooting, her feelings about the neighborhood haven't changed.
You know, I gotta just be positive, you know, and not, you know, worry about things happening, you know what I mean?
As for the 2 victims, police told me this afternoon that the man who was shot in his lower body, he has been treated and has since left the hospital. Now, the other male victim, who was shot several times throughout his body, he remains in hospital but is in non-life-threatening condition. Send it back to you, Dwight.
Thank you, Kelda. Students and staff at a Vaughan High School are returning to class today after a deadly crash took the life of one of their classmates last week.
As you can imagine, it's a difficult day for all of our staff and students in there. We have our tragic event response team on site today, which is comprised of board staff and community partners who are providing support to the staff and students during this tragic time.
It's not going to be a good day. We're going to go to the hallways, everyone's going to be crying, but it's good that we have support at the school.
16-year-old Daniel Zeno was in a car with 4 friends when it smashed into a tree on New Year's Day. Zeno was sent to hospital with life-threatening injuries, where he later died. The 17-year-old driver and the other passengers injured in the crash are expected to recover. Students at Emily Carr Secondary School remember Daniel today as an outgoing and well-liked classmate.
To be honest, I'm really sad. You know, he died in such a tragic way. Like, you know, he shouldn't have died like that. He had a life to live and everything, you know. He's just the same as like all of us, right?
And it's just so like sudden, like no one really expected it. And like seeing him every day, it's just like that's gonna
now
be like
he's gone, right?
Well,
he was a really good kid. He was very like bubbly, and like no one would obviously no one would expect this to happen.
Liked him.
Yeah, everybody liked him.
There was nothing rude that anyone could say about him. He was so sweet.
It was very shocking to all of us, and I guess everyone's very upset about this, and it's something that we're never going to forget about.
At the end of the day, I think it really does show us that we have to be careful, especially when we're driving in a car.
Police are still investigating what led to the deadly crash. No charges have been laid yet. Zeno's family and friends will lay him to rest tomorrow morning.
Some brazen and quick thieves caught on camera swiping a woman's laptop.
They're very organized. They seem like professionals.
Even though they were caught red-handed on camera, how likely is it that they will be caught and arrested? I'm Ali Chiasson, returning to the scene of the crime, and I'll have that story coming up.
There is a freezing rain warning in effect, and Colette has left the comfort of the weather center and headed outside for us. Colette, just saying, it was 28 degrees when I left Grenada yesterday.
Yes, and I'm the one being punished here, being put outside, right? Yeah, it's not that out here now. We're looking at -1 at the moment. In fact, we'll take a look at the temperatures in just a moment. Currently dry conditions, but this next weather system, and it's going to be a slick one, right on our doorstep. So we can go ahead and take a look at the areas that we are seeing in the freezing rain warning, which is the GTA, but it stretches up towards Barrie, Owen Sound, and around towards Hamilton. We're actually looking at it being more of a special weather statement, although you may see some mixed precipitation in there as well. A look at the current satellite and radar imagery, and just a little bit of light precipitation kind of coming in now and beginning in western sections, especially around Kitchener. A bit of a mix of some snow with a bit of ice pellet in there. But when it freezes on contact, that's when we're talking about freezing rain, and that's what we're looking at. Perhaps a couple of hours of this as we head through the evening hours. Then around 9, 10 o'clock, things should start to change over to plain old rain. Plain old rain because the temperature rising. So look at these readings right now. Southwestern Ontario, Windsor, it's 7 degrees, whereas in Toronto showing up as -2. As I mentioned, also seeing readings around -1. So as winds pick up from the southwest, we'll actually find our temperatures rising here in the GTA as well, and that's why we'll see the changeover. But take it to about 9, 10 o'clock where we may have the ice pelts and again the freezing rain when it freezes on contact, so nasty conditions on our roadways, on our sidewalks, and then rainfall, and that goes on into the early morning hours before it tapers off. We get into a dry slot. We'll see that to start the day off tomorrow, so at least the morning commute, any ice will have been washed away. However, what happens is tomorrow afternoon, then we get into some showers coming back, and then tomorrow evening as temperatures fall off, we could see a bit of a mix once again. But the temperature tonight going up to 6 degrees overnight. We'll hold on to that through the day tomorrow. We'll talk about what happens after that because some much colder air is going to be on the way this week, and that's coming up a little later in the show, Dwight.
Thanks, Colette. We like the mittens.
Gotta stay warm somehow out here. It's not 6 degrees yet.
The competition for rental units in Toronto is fierce, and that's sending prices through the roof. I'm Greg Ross. A new report suggests that rent could increase as much as 11% in the coming year. We'll have details on that story coming up.
Firefighters rushed to a GO train stopped on the tracks near the Distillery District this morning after the train's engine caught fire. The train was carrying passengers heading east. Those closest to the engine were pushed back while they waited for another train to pick them up. Metrolink says residents in the area complained of a strong electrical burning smell. No one was injured, but the fire shut down travel on the line for about an hour and a half. Exciting in a whole other kind of way for GO Transit, its Monday to Friday service to and from Niagara Falls officially launched today. Farah Morelli is live at Union Station, and Farah, for those commuters and sightseers alike, it could mean a lot less time stuck on the QEW.
Yeah, it really could, Dwight, especially when the train leaves on time like this one did just over an hour ago here from Union Station. This is the first train, weekday train, from Toronto to Niagara Falls. It's a long ride, just over 2.5 hours. But as you said, for people used to that bumper-to-bumper traffic on the highway, it is a welcome reprieve. What's also interesting is that this is the first time we're seeing a stop during the weekdays in St. Catharines. This is one of these stops along this route to Niagara Falls. And this is, of course, part of the GO expansion. This was announced in December, and if you are a regular commuter in this region, here's what you have to know about this new route. It's a Monday to Friday route. The cost of the trip is $19.80 with your Presto, a little bit more than $22 if you have a cash fare, and it'll only be one trip in each direction a day. So that train will move people from Niagara Falls to Toronto in the morning and back to Niagara Falls in the evening. So that morning train leaves Niagara pretty early, 5:19 a.m., arrives in Toronto at 7:50 a.m. That afternoon train, which I was just talking about earlier, leaves Union at 5:15 and gets back to Niagara Falls at 7:50. So of course, prior to today, this is a route that was seasonal and weekend. Here's some of the reaction from people commuting today at Union Station.
I think it's great, yeah. So if you have a vacation day or if you want to get away, then, we can jump on the GO train rather than driving.
It's great for sightseeing to Niagara Falls. It's also great for the university, students going to university. You don't need access to the 401. Hop on the GO train, you're there.
It's
good for people coming here every day from Niagara Falls. Hope they enjoy it.
Do you think you'd ever use it?
Probably not. I go to Niagara Falls to have to be on my own schedule.
I think we would like to hear more of these kind of things.
Well, you heard the gentleman. They said he goes to Niagara Falls. He wants to be on his own schedule. This schedule seems to be set up for commuters. So is Metrolinx looking at adding more trains to this route?
Yeah, Dwight, so what Metrolinx says is that kind of depends on two things right now. First is its ability to secure more infrastructure, and by that I mean trains. And second, its ability to actually secure deals for the companies that own these quarters of land. In this case, it was CN that Metrolinx secured a deal with to create this route. And the other issue is, as you said, are people actually going to be riding this route?
It's already part of our plans to increase the trips. But we also monitor ridership, and that's what we'll be doing. We'll be every quarter, we look at what is the ridership, is it increasing, why isn't it increasing, that sort of thing.
Now, Dwight, the other issue is that we know that the provincial government is in the middle of a GO train review. The Minister of Transportation has said that the rail service is going to be his priority, so that is good news for people who do want to see more train routes on the go. But again, it just depends on Metrolinx's ability to get more trains and really make deals on those lands. Dwight.
Yeah, a GO train to wine country, that would work for a lot of people. Thank you, Farah. If you are looking into renting an apartment in Toronto this year, you might be paying more than you thought. A new report suggests that the cost of renting in the city could go up 11% in 2019. Greg Ross has the details.
The landlord is in control. The landlord is definitely in control right now.
Joe Machado's real estate business represents both landlords and tenants. He says it's already a challenging market for renters.
Landlords right now, it's really not a question of whether they can rent the units or not. It's a question of who they're going to rent the unit to.
A new report on rentals.ca says it's going to be even more competitive in the coming year. The report suggests the cost to rent in Toronto could increase by as much as 11% in 2019, and they point to several factors, the biggest being supply and demand.
For each of the last 3 years, we've been undersupplying the market by 5,000 to 10,000 units. So that's one of the huge reasons why we've seen this growth.
In addition to a rapidly increasing population, they say it's getting more and more difficult to purchase a home in Toronto.
Because this new stress test has taken a lot of people out of that ownership market and forced them to rent.
And those renters have to be prepared to pay if they want to live downtown. Machado says his clients are already netting big dollars for their unit.
A basement apartment is now somewhere between $1,800 to $2,300 for a one-bedroom. Two-bedroom apartments above ground are anywhere from $23,000 on the low side up to $3,500.
And competition to find rental units in Toronto can be fierce.
And then we had like a bidding war, so.
Jay Bowie not only had to pay hundreds of dollars over asking for his condo in City Place, he also had to pay 3 months rent up front.
And since then prices have gone up like crazy, so I'm happy that we got the place that we did, for the price that we did.
The report says this is not exclusive to Toronto. In 2019, they expect to see rent rates increase 9% in Ottawa and 7% in Vancouver. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A Toronto woman's laptop and iPad were stolen right from underneath her chair at an Annex Cafe. Now, despite being caught on security camera, the thieves are still out there. As Alicia Son tells us, the woman worries they will never be caught.
Yeah, I was sitting here, and the whole things happened here actually. So they come over this table. My bag was under my chair, this chair, and it wasn't open, my bag.
Gulai was having dinner with friends Saturday night. There they are in Future Bakery's security camera footage. Fast forward and you see the moment that makes Gulai's blood boil.
I have watched the footage several times, just driving me crazy how I didn't really realize the situation.
You can see how covert the thieves are. The man in the dark toque grabs the bag tucked under Gulai's chair. He wiggles the laptop out, kicks the bag back under the chair, and hands it to his accomplice, who makes off with it. She called the police right away, and she says they told her,
just go online and fill out the form and report the incident, and you're gonna follow up. And then we did it, and they didn't call us still. It has been 3 days.
Thefts under $5,000 are supposed to be reported online.
Some wait, but they can call us. They can call the non-emergency phone number, or they can call the local division to find out who is investigating, or whether it's a detective or the major crime unit. You can speak to one of the officers who might be directly involved to get more feedback.
But sitting back and waiting is frustrating for Gulay, especially considering...
And this is the second time in a year.
And the fact that this time she's got footage of the thieves.
That makes me really disappointed.
She took matters into her own hands by circulating the video on Facebook, which can be a slippery slope to vigilantism, says Constable McCabe.
We would strongly discourage anyone taking anything into their own hands. Now, having an image, having a picture of what the suspects look like, that's huge for us.
Constable McCabe suspects it won't take long to find these people because Gulay is armed with evidence and shares this advice.
You know, you want to be aware of your surroundings the whole time. If it's on the ground, have it secured in front of you, closed, maybe with your leg around the strap so you can feel if anyone's pulling at it.
If I need to carry all my belongings all the time on my lap or on my body, how am I going to like feel really safe or comfortable in this city?
You got to do what you got to do, right? Because the thieves are going to do what they have to do.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
We all should be up here together. That's all I could say. Oh my God, I just don't believe it.
It was an evening to remember at the Golden Globes. Eli will be here after the break with the highlights and, of course, the Canadian connections. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
I'm a detective.
Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey occasionally nodded but said very little at a pretrial hearing today in a courtroom in Nantucket, Massachusetts. The 59-year-old star is charged with assault and battery against an 18-year-old busboy at a bar on the island in July 2016. Spacey did not enter a plea today but had signed an affidavit pleading not guilty last month. Today's proceeding was mostly about preserving text messages and photo evidence drawn from phone calls between the alleged victim and his girlfriend. Spacey's lawyer believes that evidence will benefit his client. If convicted, the actor faces up to 5 years in prison and must register as a sex offender. Another pretrial hearing will be held in March.
We all should be up here together. That's all I could say. Oh my God, I just don't believe it.
My heart is pounding out of my chest right now. This is a profound honor.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
Those are just some of the big winners at last night's Golden Globes. Canadian Sandra Oh made history as the first Asian person to host the U.S. awards show and to win 2 Golden Globe awards. Eli is our guide to all things Golden Globe related. We'll get to the crazy photo bomber later.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of your highlights.
Sandra Oh, I mean, oh my goodness. Like, as you said, so first, she steps on stage and already makes history as the first Asian to co-host the show. Does a wonderful job with Andy Samberg. But then for that role, for killing even, you know, I remember Sandra Oh, Canadian actor, saying when she got the script for that series, she didn't believe she was the main character. She couldn't believe that she was being offered this part because she was so used to being sidelined. But she took that part and she made it into a meal. And last night, she won for Best Actress in a Series. Amazing stuff. I mean, she makes that role into a symphony, but then she steps onto stage. She thanks everybody, but she waits until the very end to thank the 2 most important people who put her there. Take a look.
There are 2 people here tonight that I am so grateful that they're here with me. I'd like to thank my mother and my father. Oma, Appa, 사랑해요. Thank you, everyone.
Saying I love you in Korean to her parents. You know, backstage, CBC caught up with her and she talked about just what it felt like to give that to her parents, because it were her parents that, you know, it could be tough to get that acceptance, and they're always pushing her to work harder and aim higher, and then that amazing.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So you have that, and then the thing about the Golden Globes, it really can help a movie's awards campaign, it can put a star on the radar. So Olivia Colman plays Queen Anne in The Favourite. Now, she was in a tough category for Best Musical or Comedy, competing against people like Emily Blunt in Mary Poppins. But last night, she won, and she was so charming, so hilarious in her acceptance speech. So in The Favourite, she is the queen, and she's in this, you know, it's a relationship with two other women. And it's a very intimate relationship. And the way she referred to them, you could tell that they're very close. There's a naughty word coming up, so maybe cover the kids' ears. But here is Olivia Colman talking first about her director, and then Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone.
And Yorgos, thank you the most muchly. And my bitches. Emma and Rachel. Thank you. Every second of working with you girls was such a joy. So much fun. I was so sad when it finished.
And you see Rachel waving back from the stage. And you know, next she's playing Queen Elizabeth II in The Crown. So there you go.
Very cool. Let's talk about some of the big surprises.
Bohemian Rhapsody. Yes. I mean, I've had my issue. I mean, I think some Queen fans who really know the real life story of Freddie Mercury wanted a little more, but evidently it sang the right song for the Golden Globe voters. It won 2 big awards last night. Best Motion Picture Drama. That's the biggest when it comes to the Globes, but also Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, Rami Malek. Now, he went up on stage, thanked a lot of people, but he saved the band. Queen, who happened to be there for last. Let's take a look.
To you, Brian May, to you, Roger Taylor, for ensuring that authenticity and inclusivity exists in the music and in the world and in all of us. Thank you to Freddie Mercury for giving me the joy of a lifetime.
Now, the one person he didn't thank, and neither did the producers or writers, Bryan Singer. He's the director who was fired from that movie halfway through, has also been accused of sexual assault, which he has denied. Nobody mentioned his name last night. But here's a name that not a lot of people knew last night, and now they do. Kelif Cuthbert, otherwise known as the Fiji Water Girl.
From Toronto, I hear.
From Toronto, used to do some social work with addiction counseling. She moved to Hollywood to try modeling. She had an uncanny ability to photobomb celebs. Her Instagram has 100,015 and counting. That's the Hollywood fairy tale right there. You come as the water girl, and who knows what's next.
Wow. Now, you said it was a surprise about Malik winning, but I remember when you reviewed that film, you did say that his performance was great.
Yeah.
Back to Fiji. Really, I do like the one, though, where she's bowing down, and the lady that plays Queen is in the front, and she goes, I only bow to the Queen.
See, there you go.
Thanks, Eli.
My house had just burnt down. I was living in my husband's grandparents' attic.
Wow.
I hadn't booked a job in 2 years.
She was up it until she was on it. Get it? All right, still ahead, I sit down with Schitt's Creek star Annie Murphy as the CBC sitcom gets set for its 5th season premiere tomorrow night. Canadian officials visiting China say they've raised the issue about the 2 detained Canadians and that they've passed on the message to Beijing that Canada wants Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor released immediately. But as Sasha Petrusik tells us, there are questions as to whether the latest request will have any real impact.
It was a day full of smiles and photos as the Canadian parliamentary group toured Shanghai. In stop after stop, they had lunch with politicians from the Shanghai People's Congress. They toured an NGO center and the iconic Oriental Pearl Tower. By all accounts, it seemed like a routine visit meant to foster better relations between Canada and China. Except, of course, there's nothing routine about relations between the countries these days. They have been going downhill rapidly, upended by the arrests here in China last month of 2 Canadians who are still being interrogated by Chinese security forces, and they face very serious accusations. Well, today, apparently, all of this came to a head in an hour-long meeting between Chinese officials and the Canadian parliamentary group. That, according to the leader of that group, Senator Joseph Day, a Liberal.
The gist of the message is that the executive branch of Canada has asked for their immediate release.
Day says that came after Chinese officials demanded to know why Canada was holding Meng Wanzhou, the Huawei executive who was arrested at Washington's request. China believes there's politics involved, that the leaders of the U.S. and Canada want to put pressure on Beijing through the Huawei arrest. So, did any of this change the prospects for the two Canadians who are held in Chinese jails?
Whoever knows on these things, I think the fact that we had an open and frank discussion, and it was very frank. There was nothing held back on this. I think anytime you do that, that creates opportunities.
And for the record, there's been no change in the Chinese position in any of this. Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Shanghai.
Donald Trump has a two-pronged plan to push for his border wall this week. First, tomorrow night, he plans to address his nation in a primetime speech about what he says is a crisis at the border with Mexico. Then on Thursday, he plans to visit the border himself. It's all happening amid a partial U.S. government shutdown that was caused by Trump's insistence that Congress pay for a border wall. The price tag, $5 billion. He's also mulling over declaring a national emergency to get around Congress altogether. As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. Stay with us. We will be right back.
My husband just...
Oshawa is steeling itself for the financial fallout of GM's decision to close its assembly plant there this year. Community organizations serving residents are worried they could face funding cuts, and that's not without cause. Of the 19 agencies that have applied for grants, city staff have recommended only one get funding. Lisa Shing explains why.
Thousands of women and children have sought shelter and services at Denise House over its 35 years in Oshawa. The months after the holidays are an especially busy time.
We are seeing families, women, kids, over and above what our provincial funding is for.
This year is the first time its executive director applied for a partnership grant from the city for $5,000.
That will provide a warm bed, bedding, emergency clothing, food, for a number of families on a monthly basis.
The city has received 19 requests for funding from shelters like Denise House, community programs, and the Canadian Automotive Museum.
It is a very tough times for museums in Ontario at all levels of government.
Serving the needs of the community.
Today, other organizations also argued for help. Typically, Oshawa Council approves roughly half of the funding applications each year. Oshawa will lose $8 million in taxes from the General Motors plant shutdown.
Those salaries pay for a lot of business in this town, and if other businesses start shutting down, or a speed feeder plant shutting down, then there's a spin-off effect. Just like bringing General Motors creates 7 times revenue, when you lose it, you lose 7 times revenue.
I certainly understand that, but I would hope that there are some contingency plans around all of that as we move through 2019. That doesn't take away the need of community support agencies. And I would likely say that, in fact, it might make us all the more busy.
That obviously leads to, discussions about what can be reduced, and so that would be anything from programming exhibits to personnel costs.
The Finance Committee deferred decisions to City Council. It starts this year's budget deliberations starting Friday. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Oshawa.
The ambulance arrived and tried everything they could to bring him back, but there was nothing that they could do.
You know them by their brand names like Valium and Ativan, but benzodiazepines are now being linked to the overdose epidemic hitting our country. The reasons why, coming up. Applications are now being accepted from those looking to open up retail pot shops. Hopefuls have about 48 hours to submit their applications for a license, and then the provincial government will hand out a total of 25 licenses on Friday, 5 of them will be in Toronto. The Alcohol and Gaming Commission is using a lottery to determine who gets approved, and that's something Ontario Finance Minister Vic Fedeli is defending. He says the PCs have been forced to play catch-up.
It's a maturing business. It's brand new. Again, we've only been in the business a few months. There were a lot of problems from the federal government since the day that they first legalized it, and they've got to play catch up as well. Doing anything more than 25 right now, we would jeopardize the viability. I'm looking at BC that's just now opened 2. Everybody across the country found out, well, the feds did not make sure that there was enough supply.
If you are applying for one of those licenses, here's what you need to know. Applications have opened up today, and you will have until Wednesday to submit them. The application process will cost $75. If you are selected through the lottery, you will have 5 days to submit another application, along with a $6,000 non-refundable fee and a $50,000 letter of credit. You don't have to wait too long to see if your name has been pulled. The lottery will be held on Friday, and winners will be notified within 24 hours. Now, while the province gets ready to hand out the first round of legal pot shop licenses this spring, the city is busy investigating more than a dozen illicit storefronts. As City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly tells us, pot smokers and business owners alike are bracing for big changes.
It's exhausting. Literally, it's exhausting, the amount of stress and that is being caused by this process.
Abby Roach has been in the cannabis industry for 2 decades. Now she wants a license to actually sell legal pot at her Kensington Market store. Getting one means participating in the province's lottery.
It's absolutely a mess, and it's, I would say, kind of lazy. The reality is that now every Tom, Dick, and Harry can throw $75 and their name in the ring, and you have people who are actually ready and prepared and have been preparing for the process for a very long time, and now we're on the same par.
And her odds of getting a coveted license are slim. The first lottery round is for 25 pot shop licenses across the province. Only 5 of those are going to Toronto. While Ontario's lottery is in the works, the City of Toronto is investigating 16 illegal pot shops. They say it's a complex process, but the goal is to shut down every one. This Harvard Street Cafe is one of the last shops selling cannabis. Customers say closing its doors would be a buzzkill.
When you see a store like that, it's not like, it doesn't scream I'm a bad person, I'm not going in there to do anything bad. You're gonna go get a cup of coffee and you're gonna go maybe smoke a joint or eat a little gummy bear or whatever it is and relax.
Going to these businesses and give them the cards to be able to sell legally, I think that should have been pretty much something one of the first steps that they took, opposed to doing it now. Just because it's hard for businesses to come back up after being already shut down.
We should move and close these 16 down, and people should be given a message.
This councillor also says the province's lottery won't meet the high demand.
5 is not enough in order to be accommodating Toronto, but we need to make sure that the need is fulfilled, and people that are looking to open dispensaries down the line should be given the opportunity to do so.
They have Hotbox Louis Vuitton on the inside.
Roach agrees there's enough customers to keep everyone in business, whether it's legal or illicit.
I think people will remain open. There's no incentive now for them to stop their illegal activity, and there's a lot of incentive for them to stay open regardless of raids and fines and tickets are making too much money.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
It is a startling number in an ongoing crisis. More than 9,000 Canadians have died of opioid-related overdoses since 2016. But there's been another concern raised about a different kind of drug. Pills that are used to treat anxiety and insomnia have been linked to many of the overdose deaths in Nova Scotia. Richard Cuthbertson has more.
This is my secret stash of the ones when he's little.
In her bungalow on the outskirts of Amherst, Nova Scotia, Wendy Golden keeps the photos of her son, 20-year-old Cody, stored away. They're just too painful to remain on the walls.
He was fun, he was loyal, he was honest.
On June 24th, 2014, she found Cody unconscious on the couch.
The ambulance arrived and tried everything they could to bring him back, but There was nothing that they could do.
Cody died after taking the opioid methadone and a benzodiazepine called clonazepam. Both had been given to him by a co-worker at the New Brunswick fish plant where they worked. Benzodiazepines have been around for 6 decades. The brand names, such as Valium and Ativan, are ubiquitous. But, like opioids, they can slow down breathing, and that can be lethal.
This is where people who fall under our care begin their journey.
Dr. Matthew Bowes is Chief Medical Officer for Nova Scotia.
Well, there's really good evidence that if you give benzodiazepines together with opioids, you increase the risk of death by intoxication.
Since 2011, there have been more than 440 opioid-related fatalities in Nova Scotia. In more than half those cases, a benzodiazepine contributed to the death. The reasons are complicated. Some people with opioid addictions have mental health issues. They are self-medicating with benzodiazepines. Others who are on the sedatives may be prescribed opioids following an injury. But there's another concern. People are reaching for benzodiazepines to deal with the anxiety of opioid withdrawal. And sometimes, according to addiction specialist Dr. Dave Martel, they're getting them from doctors.
I think therein lies the danger, in that they're out in the community and being combined at times with opioids that can produce this kind of overdose.
Nova Scotia is now trying to keep better track of benzodiazepines. In October, it added the class of drugs to its prescription monitoring program. Richard Cuthbertson, CBC News, Amherst, Nova Scotia.
Remember, if you have a story you would like our investigative team to look into, just send us an email to torontotips@cbc.ca. Can you believe we're heading into season 5 for Schitt's Creek? Coming up, we speak to the ultra-talented and funny Annie Murphy about what's up for the Rose family and specifically what's happening with her character Alexis this season.
I'm a detective.
He's not afraid of heights, he's afraid of moths and butterflies.
And businesswomen in sneakers.
Okay, I can hear you. And also heights. Something to do with him being broken up with while he was
Parasailing in the Seychelles. He and Anderson Cooper were stuck up there for like 3 hours until the wind died down. I totally forgot. Ugh! I'm sorry, David! I'm sorry.
The Rose family is returning to TV tomorrow night. Schitt's Creek is back with season 5 on CBC and the CBC Gem streaming service. Ahead of the premiere, I met with Annie Murphy at the Ritz Carlton to talk about the new season and how playing Alexis has changed her life.
I feel really, really lucky, not only to be employed, but to be employed on a show that I'm so proud of, and I think that means so much to a lot of people.
It doesn't feel stale. It feels like going into season 5, you guys are still gaining momentum. Like you're still, you know, like it's still up there.
Yeah, we have, our writers are so wonderful, and there's lots to tell. There's lots of story to tell.
You were a relative newcomer when it started out, and you got this part. You know, working with some Canadian comedy legends on this show. How did it change your life from then till now?
Well,
other than being all over TV screens all over the world.
I'll paint you a little picture of my life pre-Schitt's Creek. My house had just burnt down. I was living in my husband's grandparents' attic.
Wow.
I hadn't booked a job in 2 years. We were dirt poor. And I was honestly like, I don't know if this is for me. Like,
I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay between you and Patrick.
Yeah? Why? What did he say to you?
No, nothing. Just got scared when I saw your score on this relationship quiz.
Oh my God!
Because according to Milady magazine, How Electric Is Your Relationship quiz from summer 1991, you and Patrick are in need of a generator, poor thing.
Okay,
First look like you and Dan look like real brother and sister on the show. Talk about that relationship.
it was weird. It was like a strange Cosmo thing. Like, I feel like Dan and I...
You click on screen.
We're like like a curmudgeon-y husband and wife in a past life or something like that. But we just right out of the gates, we just knew how to push each other's buttons and have so much fun doing it. And yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better older brother.
Sounds like your kind of people.
Yes, you come up with some real money, you can attract the best.
Well, spoken, John. That's goodbye in the mother tongue.
Okay, well, I'll sign off too, sweetheart. Lots to do, but wishing you an exciting... Okay, yep. Miss you too.
She already hung up. Burn, Dad.
Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. You must feel ridiculous.
You better remember which nails you pulled those wigs from because your mother keeps a spreadsheet.
The first episode, we see Moira is actually in Bosnia shooting a film, leaving the kids and Johnny alone.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, hilarity ensues.
Can you give us a little snippet about what's in for Alexis this season? Your character?
Alexis? Yeah, so Alexis, I think this season is particularly realizing that she's not so good at putting other people first. But she's really working on it, and I think with her boyfriend Ted, who she's turned down not one but two proposals. She's broken off 2 engagements, so she's realizing that she has to maybe do a little bit more work and put in a little bit more effort, and maybe go outside her comfort zone a little bit to really prove that she's in it to win it with him.
Oh, see, you gave us a little bit there, but it was like a tease. You didn't give too much.
Vague tease.
So when you want to find out, you got to watch like everybody else is watching. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Very funny show, Colin. I do like it.
I love it too. My dad loves it. My parents love it. That's actually a family show. I don't know the name maybe, but we sit around and we watch it together. Yeah, love it. Love it. Love hearing that interview too. Okay, I know you're not going to love what's coming in tonight. We do have the freezing rain warning in place. And something that really plays into that, of course, are the temperatures. And they are coming up, but still right there hovering around the freezing mark as the precipitation is entering the area. And so that's why we're looking at, again, freezing rain is when it freezes on contact. We could see some mixed precipitation in there like ice pellets, so that's freezing before it hits the surface. The other thing, now these winds are going to turn to the southwest, but they're still quite gusty coming in from the southeast at this point, and I have seen, as you see there in Markham, some of those wind gusts up there right around 65 kilometers an hour, so some strong gusty winds out there. Those will ease a little bit by tomorrow, but turning to the southwest, they remain gusty overnight tonight. This is showing you some of the moisture coming in. Very, very light snow flurry activity that we're seeing. A little bit of freezing rain trying to show up here, coming in around Hamilton, but actually at the airport still not reporting that, just saying mostly cloudy skies there. More moisture to come though, but also those temperatures are going to be coming up, and so that really plays into how much freezing rain, if any, and how long it will last. The warning is in place. It includes the city and certainly the GTA and all the way well up towards Barrie. We've got this going up towards Grey Bruce, and it looks like into the evening there will be some areas which may see a couple of hours of the freezing rain. That's the pink stuff in here, and then as the temperature keeps coming up, it turns over to rain showers, and then we'll see even a dry slot that comes in tomorrow morning. Then more moisture comes tomorrow afternoon, but with milder temperatures, it'll come in as showers, and then later tomorrow evening, maybe changing over to some light snow or flurry activity. I wouldn't expect much in terms of accumulations of that. However, of the rain, we may see 5 to 10 millimeters. A few areas may get a little bit over that in terms of what comes tonight and then what we see tomorrow afternoon. Overnight tonight, 5 to 7. Yes, the temperature continuing to come up, so that's where it will be towards the morning hours, and then kind of hovering there into tomorrow afternoon before things start to cool down. And speaking of a cool down, very quickly, I have to tell you, much colder air is going to move in later this week. The high on Thursday, -6. Overnight, it'll feel like -20, and during the day, still feeling like about -10 to -13. So comes with some rain showers and freezing rain. But Dwight, this is some of the mildest stuff we're going to see for a while that's out there right now.
Yeah, we knew the cold was coming. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
A new study found more adults are developing serious food allergies, why many more thought they did, and what the most common allergies in adults are, coming up next.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
We often talk about allergies in children, but a new U.S. study has found a surprising number of adults are developing serious food-related allergies. Christine Burek has the story.
By the time we were in front of the emergency room, I couldn't breathe.
American Christine Collins now carries an epinephrine auto-injector everywhere she goes. After eating shellfish her entire life, she developed a life-threatening food allergy in her 20s, and she's not alone.
And that number is high. It's actually higher than what we even see in kids.
Based on a U.S. survey of over 40,000 adults, 1 in 10 had a serious food allergy, and almost half developed their allergy in adulthood, raising important questions for researchers.
I'm very, very curious about a lot of the things you're curious about. One of the main ones is, what is that environmental component that is triggering allergies in adulthood?
The most common allergy in adults was shellfish, including shrimp, crab, and lobster, followed by milk and peanuts.
Why it's increasing is something that we have to keep studying and keep trying to understand a bit better.
Toronto allergist Dr. Gordon Sussman says the study also found while 10% of adults were deemed to have a serious food allergy, almost 20% of respondents thought they did.
If they think they have an allergy, but it's never confirmed, they avoid foods, but that also affects their quality of life, poorer quality of life. It also affects the economics because they get EpiPens and they get epinephrine auto-injectors and they go to the emergency room, and it's something that needs to be addressed.
Food intolerances and oral sensitivity can often be mistaken for allergies. The only way to know for sure is to be properly diagnosed.
Go and get checked out by an allergist. Get a blood test and be sure, because you don't want to find out the hard way.
Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Before we go, we want to tell you about CBC Toronto's Community Champions. We're recognizing the people and projects that are making the GTA a better place to live, work, and play, and we need your help to find them. If you could be a mentor, it could be your local neighborhood block party organizer or a volunteer group working to raise awareness for a worthy cause, get creative and think about what kind of selfless acts you've seen in the past year and nominate them. Just head to cbc.ca/communitychampions. We've got a few of them out there, right?
I can get behind that.
More of Toronto, they're good. What can you get?